I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving and a blessed time with family and friends. I was grateful I had the opportunity to go visit with my family. We have a very small family over with my sister-in-law who lives in Utah, in Salt Lake City. My niece and her fiance and my sister-in-law's sister and husband and my brother from St. Petersburg, the bishop over there. So we all met there and we had a great couple of days. I've kind of realized that probably for me, a sweet spot of being away is about 4 nights, maybe 5, because by then I'm kind of ready to kind of get home and get back into my own bed and back into my own routine. Perhaps you kind of feel that way too. We had a great couple of days and they were just a lot of fun to be with. But it's always nice to get home. And yesterday was kind of a particularly long day because we woke up early, went to breakfast with my niece and her fiance. She's getting married in May, to kind of talk about some of the wedding things and just to check in, make sure she's not becoming a bridezilla. I just kind of want to make sure of that. With 2 uncles who are priests, you know, we want to make sure it's all very calm and a very nice celebration. And then I went with her and her fiance Todd to a state park there. It was beautiful, actually. Had a great day walking around. Got to the airport right on time. Everything's going well. Got on the plane, and guess what? Every 10 minutes there's an announcement. Oh, it's going to be about another 10 minutes until we take off, because the luggage, when it was being put in, some panel broke or something like that, and they're fixing it. Well, then it was about an hour later, they were still fixing it, but it's only going to be another 10 minutes. And I found myself after, 5 days of just really a nice couple of days and just being in a good disposition, I started getting aggravated. And I said, this isn't a really good way to end a vacation, that I think I probably need to be a little bit more in control here of my emotions. And certainly on a plane, especially these days, you're kind of in this very enclosed area. There's a lot of people with phones. Like, I don't want to end up on the news that night about having airplane rage or something like that. I just said, no, this is good. I realized, don't let your emotions or your aggravation get the best of you. And I said, I need to be in control, because really it was a good opportunity to say, Lord, you are in control. When you fly on an airplane, you just give yourself to someone else. You don't have control over when it's leaving, when it lands, etc. And it just was kind of freeing, actually, a very freeing moment. Now, it did finally take off after about 2 hours, and I always bless myself when the plane takes off, and I wasn't in my priest clothes either, like I had to do that, and I was just very grateful for it. And it ended up being a nice flight, except I didn't get home till about 2 in the morning. But other than that, it was a very good vacation and a good lesson for me to say, give what you can to God. Remember, we as people are not the master of the universe, and there's a lot of things. There's a majority of things that are not in our control. They belong to God. It's really what our feast is about today. It's about allowing God to be in control. It's about allowing God to be the king of our hearts. As our gospel tells us, Jesus said to Pilate, "My kingdom is not of this world." You see, Pilate would have expected an answer of, my kingdom goes from the Mediterranean to the Jordan River, from up north to down south, and about an area of a couple of 100 square miles. But no, that's not what Jesus said. Jesus never answered the question if he was a king or not. No, he did not. What he allowed to happen was the conversation to be realized that Pilate didn't get an answer. The conversation progressed for Pilate to think for himself of what Jesus as king would be. Maybe that's what we need to do today. What does it mean to have Christ as the king of our lives? You see, Jesus didn't come into this world born into a castle. He was born in a crib, in a stable. Jesus didn't wear a crown of gold and jewels. He wore a crown of thorns. He didn't sit on a big high chair with people all around him, fanning him and being servants. He had a throne, but it was a cross. Jesus didn't have an army of people that would go out with all kinds of weaponry to defend. No, you know what Jesus used as his greatest weapon? It was a bowl and a towel, because he was a servant. And that was like really very in the face of the people at the time. They could not understand that. But it is powerful, because Jesus knew that the Father was in charge. And that's really all Jesus wants for us as well. That's all he wants for us. He wants to be in charge of us. He doesn't want us to kind of go wandering away and giving ourselves to other gods with a small g. For instance, maybe it's shopping. Probably not a good example a couple days after Black Friday, but maybe it's the god of the internet. Maybe it is something that can take over our life, like a bad relationship. See, sometimes we give ourselves to a lot of other things that really go nowhere. Because you see, when we rely on the kingdoms of this world, we realize none are eternal. The Roman Empire fell, the Greeks fell, the Ottomans fell, the British Empire collapsed, the French Empire collapsed. No. God's goes on forever and ever and ever. So as we celebrate this end of the liturgical year, really we've been reading from Mark's gospel this whole year. We've gone through a whole nother cycle of stories about our faith. Mark didn't tell a whole lot of parables. Next year we're in Luke. Luke has the most number of parables. So we'll have like a different feel. But throughout this year, we've heard about Jesus as the Good Shepherd. We've heard, Mark's interpretation of the Passion. We've had this sense of a messianic secret and an immediacy. Mark's put his own thumbprint upon the way he told the story of Jesus' life. We had 6 weeks in the summertime where we spoke about the Eucharist. Hopefully, the way that we've gone through this liturgical year has been positive for us. And maybe we have a new image of Christ. Who do we see him to be? Today, think about Christ as King. And just picture in your mind, what does he look like? What does Jesus look like as King of our hearts? Maybe it's not so much about what we see, but maybe Christ as King of our hearts is what we feel.